Hello everybody and welcome to ToolZine. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Irwin Vise-Grip self-adjusting wire strippers. Okay, so if we take a look at the Vise-Grip self-adjusting wire strippers, if you look at the top, you're going to see the self-adjustment unit at the top. There's also the micro adjustment screw, so if you have trouble stripping anything, you can fine-tune the adjustment and the grab with this dial here. There's also the length adjustment, which goes from 1/4 inch to 5/8 of an inch. And you can just slide it in and out like so, and that'll set the length of the strip. And you can also fold it back and out of the way like so, which is how I usually have it, unless I need to have an exact length of wire cut. Down here it also features a cut, so you can completely cut wire. And it's also got various crimp settings down here for insulated, non-insulated, and automotive ignition terminals. And I'll give you more on that later. The crimping does work on these, but it is a little bit of an afterthought, I would say, just because of the leverage point where it is. And I'll show you that later in the video. So if we concentrate more on the top of the wire strippers up here, what you need to do is to strip a wire. Just insert the wire up into the top of the tool, squeeze the handle quickly, and it will strip the wire. You can go ahead and pull the insulation off, and it was that fast. Now if you compare that to my old trusty Kleins, let me snip the wire here. If you were to compare it to having to find the right gauge, this is a 14 gauge wire. Let me zoom in here so you can see the markings on there. So if I put it in the 14 on the stripper, you can see how much time that would save you by just being able to grab it all in one shot and going with it. Another really nice feature of this tool, like I said, is that it's got an adjustable length gauge. So what you can do is you can set the depth of the wire. So basically you can go from 1/4 inch to 5/8 of an inch just by sliding it. I want to go ahead and set it right about 1/2, and you can, it's kind of behind the spring there. It's really hard to see on the camera, but there are little tick marks for everywhere from 1/4 to 5/8 of an inch. So if you go ahead and put the wire in until it stops and go ahead and strip it, it'll be a perfect 1/2 inch cut. This is awesome if you're doing something like installing a car stereo or rewiring a bunch of automotive terminals where you only need a specific length before you put a connector on there. Let's go ahead and try this on a piece of multi-conductor wire. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the multi-wire in there, and we're going to take the outer sheathing off by stripping it. Let's go ahead and get it on there. And as you can see, it'll remove the outer sheath. Now if you want to strip the individual wires, you can take one wire out, put it in the tool, go ahead and squeeze it again, and as you can tell, it'll strip the wire. You can also strip multiple wires, although you do have to be careful that they lay perfectly flat, but it will do 2 wires at once. So I'll do the green and red here. You can see the green and red. We'll put them, shake that wire out, put the green and red in there, same thing again. And as you can tell, it'll strip both of them at the same time. And then as soon as you shake out the clippings there, you can go ahead and do the last wire, and it'll get that as well. Now, as I mentioned, there's also a cutter on the tool. So if you want to cut off your excess here and start all over again, just put it in the inside there, go ahead and squeeze, and it'll cut it off like that. Now, another good use for this tool is Romex. Stripping the outer casing off of Romex can be very difficult, but with this tool, just go ahead and put the Romex in there, and it'll take the sheathing right off the outside. It will strip the wires inside, but depending on the type of Romex you've had, and I'm going to use this one as the example here. Most YouTube videos will show you being able to strip Romex without a problem, but I have found one major limitation of this, and this is kind of the disclaimer on this review, is that certain types of Romex with kind of an outer plastic coating such as this, it doesn't always do in one pass. So if you see there, it grabs the coating, but if you do it 2 or 3 or 4 times, oh, actually on this one, as you can see, it's not doing it at all. It'll eventually get it, but that is the downside to this. So if you have Romex where there's not a thin outer plastic coating like this on the outside of the insulation, the wire strippers will work. But on this kind, it is important to know that it will not go through that without having to do it multiple times. I've adjusted the micro adjustment screw from end to end, and it still just has trouble with this. Every once in a while, I'll grab it on the first try, but usually it takes a good 2-3 tries to get it to go. Now, this will also take the jacket off of 12.3 Romex. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. So you can see I've got a piece of 12.3. put that in the tool, and it'll pop the insulation right off. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken one of the conductor wires out of the 12-3 Romex. I've got the red wire here, and if you look, you can kind of tell it's a little bit difficult on the camera here for it to catch it, but there's no outer plastic coating on the outside of the insulation on this. So if I put this in the tool and go ahead and strip it, it does it without a hitch. So like I was showing you before, if it's got that outer coating, this tool might have a problem. You might want to go back to your pair of linesman's pliers or something like that to strip it. But if you're just using non-coated Romex like this, it'll actually work pretty well. Another really good use for this is Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable. Again, the same thing. If you take the cable, put it in the tool, it'll strip the outer coating no problem for you. You can throw that away. And then if you get to the inner conductors here, if you want to separate them out, flatten them a little bit. Working with Cat 5 and Cat 6 is always so lovely with the tiny little wires. But if you need to strip the ends off of them for some reason, you can go ahead and put them in the tool. And bingo, takes it right off there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can also crimp terminals on with this tool as well. So what I've done here is I've taken a terminal, put on the end of this wire, and then if you look at the tool itself, you'll see the color markings for where the insulated crimper is. Just go ahead and put that in there. Squeeze it down. And your terminal will be crimped on there. So it does work, but with the leverage point below the pivot, you don't get a full amount of leverage like you would if it was like a crimping tool, a ratcheting crimping tool with an actual adjustable crimping die on the end. That would be much better. But if you need to crimp something quickly, it is on there. But like I said, it's more of kind of a add-in bonus feature than it is an actual usable feature, I would say. So overall, this is a really good wire stripper for a do-it-yourselfer around the house or for automotive use. For Romex and home electrical work, I would tend to stick with something more like a pair of linesman's pliers or a specialty Romex stripper, something from Klein Tools, things like that. But for all of your other wire stripping needs, especially stranded wire, like I said, in an automotive environment, this thing's really tough to beat. If you use a different wire stripper that you're aware of that works better than this, please leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll leave links to purchase this wire stripper in the description below. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.